Good morning, everyone. At this time, will sergeants please start their recording? PC recording has started.
According to the clouds, ready to go.
Backup is rolling.
Thank you. And at this time, will Sergeant Hope please take it away?
Thank you. Good morning, and welcome to today's remote council hearing on environmental protection. At this time, will all panelists please turn on your videos? I repeat, at this time, will all panelists please turn on your videos? Thank you. To minimize disruption, please place all cell phone to vibrate or silent mode. If you wish to submit testimony, you may do so at testimony@council.nyc.gov. I repeat, testimony@council.nyc.gov. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Thank you very much, Sergeant Hope. Good morning, everyone. My name is Costa Constantinidis. I am chair of the Committee on Environmental Protection. Today, we will hold an oversight hearing on the environmental justice impacts of COVID-19 sewage disposal, and hear two bills, Intro 1966 of 2020 and Intro 244 of 2018. Intro 1966 is a local law in relation to creating a pilot program to creating a pilot program to test sewage for COVID-19 RNA, and Intro 244 is a local law to amend the administrative code in relation to the sale of non-woven disposable products. SARS-CoV-2 is a new human coronavirus that can spread through close personal contact, via respiration of aerosols, and even by interaction with surfaces. The ongoing coronavirus pandemic in the United States has already sickened more than 8 million Americans and killed more than 222,000 Americans overall. Long-standing systemic health and social inequities have put many people from Black and brown communities at increased risks of getting sick and dying from the coronavirus. Furthermore, it is not just increased risk. According to Johns Hopkins expert Sharita Golden, MD, people of color, particularly African Americans, are experiencing more serious illness and death due to COVID-19 than white people. In fact, African American counties account for more than 50% of the coronavirus cases and nearly 60% of the coronavirus deaths. Research indicates that novel coronavirus is present in stool and urine samples in sufficient quantity that wastewater testing can serve as pooled community monitoring. Until concrete data regarding the infectivity of viral particles shed via these routes is established, due care should be exercised, assuming a potential for infectivity. Coronaviruses have been known to spread through wastewater systems, through the respiration of aerosols created by toilet flushing, or even by faulty plumbing systems. Similarly, the novel coronavirus has been detected in fecal samples as well as in wastewater. It's not yet clear whether active viral particles are present in fecal matter in sufficient quantities to present a plausible pathway for infection. Assuming viral particles in the sewer system, there are a variety of potential ways of exposure, including the wastewater treatment plants. Moreover, aerosol formation during the treatment process could pose a risk to wastewater treatment plant operators and facilitate dissemination. Inactivation of the coronavirus has not been studied in detail, and the coronavirus has been detected in treated wastewater. Tertiary treatment, microfiltration, ultrafiltration, and ultrafiltration in membrane bioreactors has been shown to increase removal of enteric viruses in comparison to traditional wastewater treatment plant removal. However, the wastewater plants do not remove the virins entirely, and highly influent viral loads can lead to insufficient reductions of viruses before discharge. While the impact of the novel coronavirus in wastewater can be tested, the presence of the novel coronavirus in sewage sludge or biosolids is less likely to be detected because DEP has multiple contracts with service providers to transport and reuse or dispose of our city's biosolids. The end-use sites are at the discretion of the contractors, subject to DEP's approval. Locations for biosolids disposal are distributed throughout the Northeast and other states: Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Georgia, Virginia, However, when we're sending our biosolids to other locations or 1,000 miles away to Georgia, evidence of whether the coronavirus remains viable or can remain infectious is uncertain. In 1966, in relation to creating a pilot program to test sewage for COVID RNA, would require the Commissioner of DEP, in consultation with the Commissioner of Health and Hygiene, to create a pilot program to test the city's wastewater plant for the presence of SARS-CoV-2, the strain of coronavirus that causes COVID-19, and submit a report with the results of the program. Intro 244 of 2018 would prohibit a retailer from selling non-woven disposable product unless it complies with testing standards established by the Commissioner of DEP. Understanding the spread of the novel coronavirus through the community is an integral part of formulating mitigation strategies. Monitoring wastewater and sewage sludge can provide near and real-time data pertaining to the rates of infection in the general public, enabling public health officials to craft better and more targeted responses to community spread. I want to thank our committee staff, our committee counsel and moderator today, Samara Swanston. Thank you, Samara, as always. Policy analyst, Nadia Johnston and Nikki Chawla. Thank you, Nadia, for your text messages, keeping me on point. Financial analyst, Jonathan Seltzer. My own legislative director, Nicholas Wazowski, for all their hard work. Of course, everyone who's not named, who is behind the scenes making this Zoom possible. Thank you to our technical staff, and of course, to all of our hardworking Sergeant-at-Arms who are making sure that we can get all this done. Thank you for all your hard work as well. So with that, I will turn it over to our moderator, Samara Swanston, to swear in our first witness.
Thank you. I'll now deliver the oath to the administration, and I will call on each of you to individually record your answers to be followed by your testimony. So please raise your right hands. I'm directing this to Vinny Sapienza, Pam Ilardo, Michael Delorch, and Dimitrios Katsias. And that's everybody. Okay, do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee, and to respond honestly to the council members' questions?
Do. Yes.
Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to questions for, excuse me, and now you may testify when ready, starting with Vincent Sapienza.
Can I quickly just recognize, I know Councilmember Levin and Councilmember Yeager, both from Brooklyn, are on the meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll begin. Good morning, Chair Constantinides. Good to see you and members of the Committee on Environmental Protection. I'm Vinny Sapienza, the Commissioner of the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. I'm here today to speak about COVID-19 and non-woven disposable products. These are important topics, and I thank the Council for focusing on them. I'm joined here today by DEP Deputy Commissioner Michael Delorch from our Bureau of Public Affairs and Communications, and by Deputy Commissioner Pam Ilardo and Director Dimitri Katsias from our Bureau of Wastewater Treatment. The first agenda item today is the environmental justice impacts of COVID-19 sewage disposal. Environmental justice is a critical factor in DEP's mission to protect public health and the environment. We thank the chair for his leadership in advancing environmental justice across the city. We carefully consider public health, environmental, and social impacts of all DEP projects and operations, including the design and construction of our green infrastructure assets, the prioritization of water bodies in our CSO control program, and our affordability programs for ratepayers. For our wastewater treatment programs, we go above and beyond the discharge of clean treated water, working to recover valuable resources and reducing the amounts of waste that cannot be recycled or reused. For example, we landfill about 70% of our biosolids, along with screenings, as well as an estimated 40 to 50,000 tons of scum, which is grease, per year that we collect in the treatment process. While we are investing in and planning to achieve 100% of beneficial use of biosolids, we are currently investigating adding scum to on-site digestion to increase production of valuable biogas for beneficial reuse. There is no credible evidence that the coronavirus can be transmitted through wastewater exposure. This question has come up, and so I want to answer it directly. Genetic material, or the RNA fragments within the virus, can be detected in wastewater. This is different from the infectious virus itself. In fact, the coronavirus breaks down in sewage more easily than other pathogens that we regularly treat for. So now on to Intro 1966. The presence of coronavirus in waste ties into Intro 1966, which calls for a pilot program to test sewage for COVID-19 RNA. Sewage testing has the potential to identify COVID-19 outbreaks. We share the council's goal of having an effective testing program in the city. Since the spring, DEP's Bureau of Wastewater Treatment has been implementing molecular monitoring techniques in sewage and coordinating with the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. The work has the potential to identify hotspots and provide early warnings about disease spread. Similar programs have been established in other cities around the country and the world. DEP has engaged with national experts to define the state of the science and assess the role that virus tracking can play. We are working directly with a team from the City University of New York and New York University, Stanford University, and the University of Michigan, and also leading utilities from across the US to refine the sampling and analytical methods to track genetic material, the RNA, from the novel coronavirus in the city's wastewater. In the short term, the data collected will allow us to assess trends in genetic material concentrations of the virus that causes COVID-19 within the sewage for each of the city's 14 sewer sheds. Preparing for the long term, we are building protocols and infrastructure that can be used in the future to monitor sewage for potential outbreaks of a number of viruses, such as common influenza. The tools that we are developing are not just useful for COVID. The project included collecting samples from all 14 of our wastewater resource recovery facilities twice per week. Our testing covers every neighborhood in the city because every neighborhood is a part of a sewer shed, as illustrated, and you'll have the testimony on paper in front of you, but there's a map that shows the sewer sheds. We were able to conduct the necessary analysis in-house at the Newtown Creek Microbiology Laboratory. At this stage, the analytical testing technology is well developed, but technical gaps still remain due to the multiple multi-day steps and the labor-intensive nature of the analysis. We are further refining the process, and we are in the process of procuring equipment, such as additional centrifuges and analytical equipment. DOHMH is early on in the process of determining how they may be able to use the information we send them and how it may help with disease surveillance and decision-making. Preliminary comparisons suggest that this may be a promising contribution to existing public health data streams. We want to suggest some technical edits to the bill language for Intro 1966 to align with the bill testing methods and best suited for work that we are doing right now. We support the bill's intent, and we thank the council for supporting us in this effort. Now on to Intro 244. The final agenda item today is Intro 244 of 2018, which relates to wipes being flushed into the sewer system. I want to thank you for moving forward with this issue. As the council is aware, flushing anything other than human waste and toilet paper can cause serious problems in the system. Foreign objects, like wipes, damage the equipment at our wastewater resource recovery facilities and contribute to fatbergs that block sewer pipes. Even wipes that are labeled flushable should not be flushed. Preventing items from being flushed is critical to protect city and private infrastructure. DEP spends nearly $19 million annually to remediate the damage caused by these clogs, such as cleaning sewers, disposing of wipes, and repairing damaged machinery. The prevalence of wipes has increased significantly over the last decade. Over the same period, the sales of wipes has increased as well. And there's a graphic as well as in the written testimony that shows the correlation between the amount of wipes we're removing from the wastewater system and the sale of wipes. We want to propose significant changes to the bill text, incorporating what we have learned from and accomplished since the bill was introduced in 2018. The International Water Services Flushability Group, or IWSFG, is an international body of experts who established standards in 2018 to determine whether something is truly flushable. Changes to the city sewer regulations went into effect in March of this year. The rules now prohibit any item that does not meet the IWSFG standard from being discharged into the sewer system. These are important developments since Intro 244 was introduced in 2018. We also launched the Trash It, Don't Flush It behavior change campaign last year. The campaign's purpose was to inform people about what is flushable. The campaigns targeted wipes, grease, and any other items beside toilet paper, everything that contributes to fatbergs. We relaunched the campaign from April to June of this year to remind the public about this important issue. Unfortunately, we have not yet seen a significant change in wipes in the system. DEP has been engaged in a multi-year, multi-pronged effort to address the prevalence of wipes in our sewer system, and we've made multiple public education attempts, including doubling down on public education since the onset of the pandemic. We changed the sewer use rules this year to prohibit flushing these items. Despite our efforts, we continue to see wipes and other debris in our pipes and in our plants. We have been unsuccessful in eliminating the problem so far, and so we are grateful to the council's partnership on this issue. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify today. My colleagues and I are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Always good to see you and see your team as well. Pam, I miss seeing you at the Jackson Heights Green Market. It's always good to see you as well. So I guess I'll start off with just a few questions. You brought up the centrifuges and other equipment. Do we have like an ETA on when that equipment will be procured and we'll be able to sort of move forward with more robust sort of testing as you talked about?
Yeah, so I'm going to let Pam and Dimitri answer the question, but again, thank you for your comments also at the beginning. We've done a lot of good work this past spring and summer, and I got to personally visit our Newtown Creek lab a few times and seeing how the ramp up is going. But there is some additional equipment that we need. We were able to hire 3 new employees to do this work. But Pam or Dimitri, do you have an answer on the procurement?
Yeah, so first of all, I'd just like to acknowledge the support we had throughout much of New York City and the community and beyond, and including Bureau President Gail Brewer, who was interested in helping us set up the COVID testing lab. And we got the lab set up. It was a great effort. I'd like to recognize Dr. Dimitri Kateas and his team. He's not a medical doctor, but he does have a PhD. So he was instrumental in getting that set up and collaborating across the country to make it happen. So as you can imagine, it's very difficult to take sewage and look for very fine strands of RNA that are extremely low concentrations. And we had some existing equipment and we were able to secure filling those vacancies. And we'd like to increase our throughput. So I'd like Dimitri to give us just a couple details on that, if you don't mind.
Certainly, and thank you again for the opportunity to testify. The procurements were initiated once we received approvals in the summer. We've had a couple of challenges. Basically, the equipment is rather hard to locate right now and was on back order. The centrifuges are coming in from Germany. So they're en route, as I understand, with a delivery anticipated in mid to late November. The associated analytical equipment is also on back order, and we expect that to come a little before Christmas.
Okay.
But I'd just like to acknowledge that we currently are sampling a number. Dimitri, you could just tell us how many samples per week we're doing and what the new equipment will bring us up to.
Well, currently we're executing approximately 40 samples per week, recognizing that this is a rather laborious method. With the new equipment online, we anticipate to a little over double that while reducing the time frame from 3 days to 2 days to get analytical results back.
And how closely are we working with Department of Health on this? You know, I look at Boston, and you know they may be looking at an almost exponential outbreak where like hours and minutes like matter. So you know, how are we coordinating with Department of Health on the stuff that we're finding and moving forward?
Yeah, so I'll start, and then I'll turn it over to Pam and Dimitri. But you know, it's a good question in that, you know, the test and trace program that I think we've done locally has been superb, and that's how we've really been able to keep the pandemic tamped down to the extent that we have compared to, you know, other places around the country. But the traditional test and trace programs do have some shortcomings. If people aren't going to get tested, it's an issue, and especially in EJ communities, it can be tough, you know, where you're, you know, potentially at home watching kids who are telelearning, or your spouse was laid off and you know you're working extra shifts, extra jobs. It's sometimes tough for you to get out to get tested, and those people can get missed through the traditional test and trace program. But by analyzing sewage, you know, if you're infected, even if you're asymptomatic, you're potentially shedding that virus through the sewer system, and we can detect it, and it helps us to get that information fairly quickly and share it immediately with the health department. Turn it over to Pam now, because she's been dealing with them directly.
I would just like to confirm that we've worked very closely with them, and Dimitri meets with them regularly, and we send data to them pretty much as we develop it. And Dimitri, you can add some more detail on that?
Certainly, we provide data to DOHMH 2 times per week currently. That data provides for all 14 sewer sheds the levels of the RNA that was in the influent to the treatment facilities. We have been discussing with them the nature of the data, because this is a atypical data stream. There is not the type of data that they are used to utilizing. So they are working on better understanding the correlations and understanding how they can best integrate that data into their epidemiological models, which are rather complicated, and they have a long track record in utilizing.
How are we coordinating with other jurisdictions that may have testing, you know, programs as well? I mean, I referenced Boston, but are we talking with them about, you know, best practices, or how are we coordinating with other cities that are maybe doing the same thing, or may have this, you know, have these, you know, pieces of equipment already and, you know, are moving ahead? So like, what are we teaching them? What are they teaching us? How is that back and forth going so far?
Go ahead, Pam, I'll let you talk about
I'd just like to say that, you know, as soon as we knew that COVID existed, or this version of it, we had immediate interactions across the country with universities and our utility partners. So we got ahead of the curve on it, and we're continuing to pursue the objectives of doing this analysis. So Dimitri was probably on the phone and on Zoom meetings 24/7 in the first couple of months of this, and we've been very engaged. We could add, you know, Dimitri, you can provide a little bit more background there.
Certainly. There have been 3 mechanisms that we've been engaging across the country, and actually also with European utilities. One mechanism was our academic partners that Vinny spoke of, our commissioner spoke of earlier, which included Stanford, University of Michigan, some of the powerhouses in this specific area of coronavirus detection. We worked with the local academics, our City University of New York partners, who were amazing in terms of both method development, in terms of the fundamentals, as well as training of our staff. We worked also with NYU, who supported us in developing methodologies to actually sample and then to bank those samples and freeze them and so forth. From the utility side, we've worked with the Hampton Roads Sanitary District in particular. I need to give them a shout out because they really had a mature program that targeted microbial source tracking. And we were able to learn a lot from their more than 6 years of experience in this type of molecular method. On our end, we have also been engaging with national and international research organizations, such as the Water Research Foundation, where, for example, I've served as a project committee member on development and execution of a project where we got over 30 laboratories from across the US to test samples so we can better understand the various analytical methods and what their limitations and what potential optimizations we can execute on those.
Are there things that other jurisdictions are doing that we've decided not to do or maybe found unnecessary?
Well, if I may take that.
Please.
So there, in the beginning, especially in March and April, there was a lot of uncertainty, as you can imagine, in terms of the analytical methods. And we were all actually trying different type of technologies. After 3 very rough months of developing in parallel multiple analytical methods, we were able to eliminate the need for an ultracentrifuge, which is a specific type of method, because we do have some special considerations here to the size of our system. The fact that we need to run samples for 14 plants, not 1, 2, or 3, and in addition to that, be able to go upstream into the sewer sheds if called upon to look at sources in greater resolution. So just the throughput that we required forced us to eliminate some of the simpler methods that other laboratories were using.
Okay. So are we going to put do we use open data? Do we share our results on open data portal at all?
Yeah, I guess, Mr. Chairman, we thought about that and just, I guess, because I got to look at what the data looks like. And I don't know how useful it would be. It wasn't useful to me. I didn't know what I was looking at. So how we can, put it in a format that's useful to anybody other than the health department seems to be a challenge. I don't know. I know, Michael Deloach, you've looked at this too. I don't know if you want to say anything. Can we turn on Michael's microphone? Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me now, Ben?
Yeah. All right, there he is.
So yeah, we're continuing to review it. It's just a question of how we can adapt the data. So we're continuing to look into it to see if it's possible.
Have we talked to other jurisdictions? I mean, I keep going back to Boston, but Boston seems to be able to, I saw their data on Twitter, and it seemed pretty easy for me to understand. Are we kind of coordinating with other jurisdictions on how they're releasing their data in an open portal format?
It's definitely something we can do more of. We can do more of that. I'm not sure who we've talked to, but we can definitely figure out the best way to try and get the information, publicly accessible.
All right, I looked at their data and it frightened me prior to this hearing because it showed that a potential huge outbreak in that city is on the way. And having that data internally and both externally, letting people know, hey, there's something on the horizon here, you should be doubly careful, right? And we need to reinforce. I think there's sort of like some COVID fatigue going on where people aren't masking up. I was in, don't judge. I take my son to get his glasses and he begged to go to McDonald's. It wasn't my first choice. But, I was in there and there was someone there without a mask and I was, mortified by it. Because I've had COVID and it's not something anyone wants. So I think we did some COVID fatigue, and I think, having data, I would say, just sort of looking at hotspots before they're happening, here's what's going on in this quadrant of the city or that quadrant of the city might be useful just both to the health department and to the general public.
Yeah, definitely. And as you know, we continue to build this out and increase its effectiveness, and we'll continue to figure out ways that we can, use the information and help the public to, stay, cautious and stay safe during these difficult times.
Absolutely, absolutely. I guess the last question I wanted to ask. We're testing our wastewater facilities or results. And I definitely want to recognize Councilmember Menchaca. No, he's here as well. Does he have any questions? I'm guessing not. Okay. All right. So, and once we have, I guess the last question I have, once we have this new, these new technologies, right? The new centrifuges, the new equipment, it's saying the centrifuges should be here before Thanksgiving. The other equipment should be here before Christmas. What does that look like? How soon can we get them online? Like, what does it look like as far as being able to integrate them into what we're doing?
Yeah. Dimitri, go ahead.
Yes, sir. With respect to the centrifuges, we can get those online because they're equivalent to equipment that we already have very rapidly within a week or so. And that will allow us to boost production from the 40 samples we're running currently up to about 50, 55 samples we anticipate. And then the next boost will occur when the digital PCR equipment comes in. And that is what we anticipate will take us up to our 80 sample threshold. The dPCR equipment will take a bit. We anticipate about a month to get it fully online, the complexity associated with that equipment.
All right. So with that, I don't have any other questions. Do any of my colleagues have any questions? I mean, Samara, I'll pass it to you to see if there's anybody that has raised their hand.
Does anyone else want to ask questions of the administration at this time? Okay, well, seeing no more council questions, this would wrap up the administration's testimony. We can turn now to the public testimony. I'd like to remind everyone that unlike our typical council hearings, we'll be calling individuals one by one to testify. Council members who have questions for particular panelists should use the raise hand function in Zoom. For panelists, once your name is called, a member of our staff will unmute you and the Sergeant at Arms will give you the go-ahead to begin upon the setting of the timer. Please wait for the Sergeant to announce your testimony before beginning your testimony. Your testimony will be limited to 5 minutes.
Commissioner, everyone else, I just want to thank you all for your testimony today. Since there are no more other questions from our council staff or council members, thank you for your hard work during this difficult time. I look forward to coordinating with you on this legislation. And I do agree with you. I didn't ask any questions about the bill, and Councilmember Nosso is not here. I think we all agree there is no such thing as a flushable wipe. So thank you for all of your work.
Thanks. Be well, Cal.
You as well. If I don't speak to you, have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You too.
Now, I would like to welcome Borough President Gail Brewer to testify, followed by Kathy Nazari. Borough President Gail Brewer.
Your time starts
Please,
now.
please do not put the Borough President on a clock. Let her speak as long as she please.
Copy that.
Thank you very much. I will try to stick to the time, however, and I want to thank you, Chair Constantine, because your work on the Environmental Protection Committee is legendary. And this is just one more example. So I am very supportive of Intro 1966. That's what I'm going to talk about. And I don't know if it's a pilot program, but it sure is needed to be something that we talk about, because it has taken a little bit too long, as you hinted, to get the city up and going on this wonderful program to look at wastewater as a strategy to detect the potential spread of COVID and other god-awful viruses that might come about. I know that we've all got the numbers. I'm just going to summarize of how many New Yorkers have died. I don't know if this would have helped, but I wish that it had existed previously. I think we know that testing sewage is an effective way to detect the spread of COVID-19 and anything else. I know that Holland and other countries, and as you said, Boston, have been using this effectively. So in my situation, the reason I was interested is, I think, you know, we have a very active Manhattan Solid Waste Advisory Board. I think there's one getting started in Queens now, and that's a good thing. And as a result of their advocacy, we wrote to the governor and the mayor saying to make sure that this program existed, that it was a great strategy for dealing with this horrible pandemic. We also reached out to Professor Kevin Biscaglia, who's at Hofstra, and he pointed out that the potential for looking and tracking the prevalence of SARS-CoV-2 in New York would be very enhanced by this program. I am a Pam Ilardo fan, and I think you are also. You can go to you have the advantage, as I heard earlier, of going to the market, the Green Market, and seeing her. I just watch her over Zoom, and then I've been to Newtown Creek and seen the amazing work she does. So really, a lot of this is due to her leadership. I think starting in the spring and then into August, DEP developed this measure, this validated method to measure the viral RNA of all sewage. And they're continuing to do this. They're working very, very closely. That was a good question. With H&H, Department of Health, academics, hospitals, and labs all across the country. I think originally starting with Stanford, but Stanford is Stanford. We need to be New York and do it ourselves. And I think that, as you heard earlier, there are 40 samples per week, but we obviously need to do more as soon as the equipment arrives. But it's taken a while for her to be able to get this off. So I've got like 3 suggestions. I think that if the council mandates wastewater testing for COVID, and I think you will, then DEP must have the money and the resources. I knew as early as June 18th that when she and I were on a panel discussing wastewater testing, that DEP was ready to move full speed ahead as soon as OMB approved the release of funds for the salaries of the 3 scientists and the money for the equipment. I think it was only $230,000. I was going to do a GoFundMe in order to purchase it at that point because of the need for it. OMB eventually allowed the hiring to proceed, and we're working on the equipment, as you heard, but this has been a delay, and it needs to not be a delay in the future. If anything new comes along that she needs, the city needs to provide it. Number 2, as you know, 1966 requires collaboration between DEP and the health department to report on and determine the feasibility of expanding the proposed pilot, although I think we're beyond the pilot now. DEP is in regular communication with all the agencies, but particularly health and HH, so that the data collected through wastewater testing is integrated into these agencies' own data streams for more comprehensive detection of COVID-19 community spread and anything else that could come along. Once detected, working across agencies, it is vital to coordinate testing and tracing, but it will work even better if DEP has resources to be able to do that targeting. And number 3, as you heard earlier, and thank you for suggesting this, Mr. Chair, I am a big believer, as you know, of the New York City Open Data Portal, having had something to do with its initiation. Mm-hmm. And I know that it may be hard to unravel the data, but there are a lot of smart people in New York City. And so I stress the importance of ongoing data collection, analysis, and sharing. And I really urge the council in that bill, Intro 1966, to say that data collected through wastewater testing must be made available publicly on the New York City Open Data Portal, because there are many people. It takes a village to do anything in this city, and having that data available, we may have other ideas that come out of it. Congratulations on this hearing. In college, I wrote my thesis on wastewater treatment facilities, of which I know nothing, but it is certainly something that is incredibly important to our city. I would definitely appreciate your hearing and your knowledge. And like I said, Pam Arlardo walks on water. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Madam Borough President, I'll just say that you have been an inspiration to me as an elected official from my first time working for Councilmember Darlene Mealing and being down the hall from your office. I remember seeing all of your hard work, and you've set the bar very high for what an elected official can accomplish and how hard one elected official should work. So thank you for your commitment to the city and all that you do. And you've always been an inspiration to me and so many others. So thank you for all that you do. And thank you for testifying today.
Thank you.
And I do agree with you that Pam Arlardo walks on water. I met her on top of a wastewater treatment plant.
Hey, first time.
Our first time.
Very base.
It was a lot of fun. Pam Pam and the whole DEP team really worked so very hard, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I definitely look at your edits and agree with you. And I look forward to advancing this bill with your assistance and partnership. Thank you.
And next we'll hear from Paul Storella.
Time starts now.
Kathy Nazari, or is that, we've called her?
She's not here at the present time. Otherwise, I would be calling her.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Paul, your time starts now.
Okay, thank you. First, I'd like to thank the members of the Committee on Environmental Protection, and particularly Committee Chair Constantinides, for the opportunity to testify today in support of creating a pilot program to test sewage for COVID-19 RNA. My name is Paul Storella, and I run AECOM's Water Group in New York. In this capacity, I have worked with the New York City Department of Environmental Protection for more than 20 years on large water and wastewater infrastructure projects. For the past 6 months, I have been leading AECOM's efforts to monitor wastewater for COVID-19 RNA and have been directly involved in implementing pilot studies across the country, from as close as Bergen and Westchester counties to the Commonwealth of Kentucky and to the city of Phoenix. As the only leading indicator of COVID-19, wastewater analysis can serve as an early warning system to quickly establish the presence of the virus in the general population. Studies have demonstrated that COVID-19 RNA can be detected up to 2 weeks before symptoms emerge, which is particularly significant given that the virus can be transmitted by people who are asymptomatic. The presence and concentration of RNA from the virus can indicate an imminent increase or decrease of virus infections when routinely tested over a given time and when monitoring the trends. The resulting data can then be used proactively to inform public policy decisions that can help protect public health. This method is not new. Similar wastewater analysis has been performed for years to detect opioid concentrations, norovirus, antibiotic-resistant bacteria, poliovirus, and measles throughout the world. And many countries, including the Netherlands, Finland, and Germany, currently test for COVID-19 RNA. An interesting case study is Israel's sewer surveillance program, which was established in 1989 by the Ministry of Health to detect poliovirus from samples collected weekly from sewage trunk lines and treatment plants, utilizing the same test we now use to detect the novel coronavirus. In 2013, poliovirus was detected, and the Ministry of Health acted quickly to vaccinate the public. Consequently, none of the infections resulted in paralysis. Given the long history of wastewater analysis, there are some lessons learned that New York City can benefit from. First is frequency and turnaround time. To identify virus trends up to 2 weeks in advance of the appearance of medical symptoms in the general public, testing must be performed no less than twice per week, as you're proposing here. and results delivered ideally within 48 hours of sampling. The trends that emerge from reviewing the results over time can inform proactive mitigation strategies to help slow the spread of the virus. But time lag that extends data collection can diminish the utility of the results. In addition to New York City's 14 wastewater treatment facilities, there are opportunities to sample other locations, including manholes and pumping stations.
Okay.
Given the city's size and population, these types of sites could help identify more localized areas of infection while still maintaining anonymous data. The more granular data can inform efforts to contain the virus in these smaller hotspots, protect the most vulnerable in those areas, and avoid large-scale shutdowns, all in advance of medical symptoms appearing in these populations. Finally, it is important to consider the possible need to normalize samples that are taken on different days and in different areas, accounting for variations in wastewater strength, which can be impacted by a number of factors, including intrusion of groundwater and stormwater into the sewage collection system. This is a quality assurance measure that will help ensure accuracy of the daily results and thus the trends over time. As the only leading indicator of COVID-19, wastewater monitoring is an essential tool to limit the spread of highly contagious and potentially lethal virus and help keep New York City safe. The pilot program is an excellent first step towards implementing a broader citywide wastewater monitoring program to protect us in the future from viruses both known and unknown and prevent the potential catastrophic effects of another novel coronavirus. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you to AECOM. I know we've had an opportunity to speak, and I appreciate your coordination with the city on this topic and other topics as well. So I think that partnerships like that should continue, and we should continue to seek out the best science possible as we move forward here to get this right and to make sure that we're safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agree.
And next we will hear from Jessica Franken.
Time starts now.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Great, thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and honorable members of the committee, as well as committee staff and Sergeant-at-Arms staff. My name is Jessica Franken, and I am here on behalf of INDA, the Association of the Nonwoven Fabrics Industry, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to testify today to share our concerns regarding Intro 244. Just by way of background, INDA is the trade association that represents disposable wipes fabric makers, wipes manufacturers, and some brand owners. Our members are committed to designing wipes that meet consumer expectations and their health and hygiene needs while minimizing post-consumer impacts on municipal wastewater infrastructure and the environment. As such, we do, of course, share the city's concern about the persistent problem of wastewater system clogs. However, despite the bill author's best intentions and that of DEP, we do believe that the Intro 244's proposed solution of mandating a performance standard, possibly the IWSFG standard that Mr. Sapienza described, for flushable wipes simply will not address the problem at hand. And that's really the inappropriate flushing of products that are not labeled as flushable. Numerous forensic studies that have been conducted by wastewater professionals of systems in various locations throughout the years, including Jacksonville, Florida, the United Kingdom, Portland, Maine, Minnesota, and even in an independent study that was commissioned by the New York City Department of Environmental Protection and Law Department in 2016, have all repeatedly shown that the real culprit in sewer systems is the incorrect flushing of items that are not labeled flushable. So these are things like non-flushable baby wipes, household cleaning wipes, disinfecting wipes, feminine hygiene products, and things like paper hand towels. By stark contrast in these studies, wipes that are labeled flushable represented a mere 1 to 2% of what's being found on sewer system screens and in clogs. This is because flushable wipes already undergo rigorous testing under the industry's long-standing guidelines, currently in their 4th iteration, in order to be labeled flushable. These guidelines require a wipe labeled flushable to undergo 7 different tests in order to establish compatibility with the sewer system, and those tests look at various points in which a wipe would travel through the system. The results from these forensic studies that I've cited, which are also have been provided to the committee in advance of the hearing and formal reports that have been issued, I really believe speak for themselves. Rather than develop a potentially problematic standard for flushable wipes that would do nothing to address the problem affecting wastewater systems, or at least nothing in a meaningful way, INDA would like to offer ourselves up with the opportunity to collaborate with city and local wastewater operators to develop a cooperative approach aimed at addressing and correcting the improper disposal of wipes and items that are not labeled flushable, that are clearly demonstrated to cause clogs and accumulate in systems. In fact, INDA has several examples of successful collaboration with both various local jurisdictions as well as wastewater operators in several locations, including recently earlier this year in Washington State. INDA believes that this type of approach would be far more effective at reducing the unwanted debris in New York City sewer systems, and we're hopeful to have this opportunity to partner with you to tackle the problem of non-flushable wipes in the city's wastewater system. I don't want to push up too much on my time, so I'm going to stop here, but I really do appreciate having the opportunity. I would like to express my thanks to your committee staff who were very helpful in getting me online and ready to and prepared to participate today on very short notice. So thank you for that. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
As I mentioned during my time, I talked about the challenges that we see here in New York City, that there really is no such thing as a flushable wipe here in New York City.
Right.
And wouldn't you sort of glean from people putting things, wipes that maybe aren't labeled flushable as some measure of confusion, right? They're putting non-flushable wipes and flushable wipes. They're buying wipes. That your industry sort of creating this myth that there is a flushable wipe, and therefore people just believe they can flush whatever wipes there are because you're creating this myth.
Well, as you can imagine, I would disagree with you about it being a myth. And again, I would say that if you look at the data, you would see that flushable wipes are performing as they were intended. But to your point about confusion and the need for consumers to better understand what they should and should not be flushing, you make an excellent point. And so when I reference the collaborations that we've been engaged with cities and other wastewater operators, these were locations, and again, I mentioned Washington State, but these were locations that saw that the primary problem in their systems were the flushing of these non-flushable wipes and other items that should never be flushed. And so what we were able to do is to work with these wastewater system operators to develop more targeted campaigns and educational materials in order to be able to make sure that people know that they should not be flushing those products. I think our concern here is with a standard like what the IWSFG has developed, this could end up, it's so unnecessarily stringent that this could end up resulting in the availability of flushable wipes going away. But the behavior of consumers using these wipes, what they've come to rely upon, in bathroom settings, elderly, caregivers, a lot of vulnerable populations do rely on these products, is that the behavior will still remain, but the one product that actually does work isn't going to be available anymore. So I think for us, we see an opportunity to both tackle the real problem by having more targeted messaging, but also to, again, make sure that the city's problems don't worsen by potentially imposing standards that are so overly rigid and unnecessarily so, that they end up making it such that flushable wipes aren't available to consumers. Then people shift their purchases to baby wipes and other very strong wipes, which are causing the problems.
Oh, I appreciate your testimony today, Ms. Franken. Thank you so much for being on. I appreciate your time and your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it again.
Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
At this time, I'd like to ask, is there anyone who has registered to testify, but whose name I have not called? If so, please raise your hand using the Zoom function. Seeing none, I will now turn it over to Chair Constantinides for any closing remarks.
I just want to again thank the entire team. First, the DEP team, Vinny Sapienza, Pam Millardo, Dimitri. Thank you for Michael Deloche. Thank you for your testimony today. I look forward to partnering with you as we move forward on 1966 and 244. I want to thank our own staff, our committee counsel and moderator today, Samara Swanston, our policy analysts, both Nadia Johnson and Ricky Chawla, our Sergeant at Arms, who have been doing a great job as always. Thank you. Joanna Castro, who's helped with the Zoom, and all the technical staff, that's Tirza Nasser, everyone who's helped, Megan Shen, everyone who has been behind the scenes today to make sure this did well. My own staff, Nicholas Wazowski, my legislative director, and all those who testified, who gave of their time today to make sure that the city emerges from this crisis better equipped to deal with the challenges of both COVID and future potential outbreaks and pandemics. So I look forward to moving these bills. And of course, I want to thank our speaker, Corey Johnson, for his great leadership as well. So seeing no one else willing to testify today, I want to gavel this committee hearing of the Environmental Protection Committee on October 26th closed.